What's crack-a-lackin', YouTube? Cosmos here, back at you again with some Joust-related content. Today, we will be talking about how to build assassins in Joust. So, for this video, we will be classifying assassins into 3 different categories based on the playstyle that you go with the character. Much akin to the mage video we did a little bit back. And those 3 styles are the burst assassin, the auto attack assassin, and the tank slash very tanky, a lot of hybrid items assassin. You're kind of like a warrior when you do that. And I'll start off the video by telling you which gods, or which of these gods go under which class, though you can kind of mix and match them a little bit if you want. But I'll just be going over the typical roles and builds of these types of assassins. So for the burst assassin, we have a Relics, we have Bastet, Camazotz, Daji, Hoonbots, Robin, Pele, Set, Susano, Thanatos, and Thor. So with these assassins, you're going to be typically focused on building the high power items. You will still build some tanky items, as we will go over, but your main focus is to just output a lot of damage and burst down targets really fast. As for the second class of assassins, the auto attack assassin, that includes Arachne, Bakasura, Kali, and Nemesis. Those are the assassins that you will typically focus on augmenting your basic attacks with. You know, you'll be building that chin size stone cutting type of deal, and you'll really be focusing on powering people down with your basic attack speed and how hard those basic attacks are able to hit. And then, of course, we have the tank slash tanky assassin that's going to build like a warrior kind of. And those assassins include Fenrir, Loki, Mercury, Naja, Ratatosker, Serket, and Tsukuyomi. They're going to be a lot more focused on being those super hybrid, very tanky, really annoying, just poking you down, setting up for the team type of assassin. And all 3 of these assassin styles are very effective. So, the first assassin style we will talk about is the burst assassin. Can I quickly give a rundown on the playstyles and how you want to play early to mid game? I could try to go down on the playstyle during each one, for sure. So for Camazotz, who is a burst assassin, you are typically wanting to just farm up as much as possible, get your few core items online, and then just hiding out in the jungle and taking fights when you can see them emerging. You're usually not the first engager. You are typically not the first engager on the first or second type of assassin. You're really only the primary engager in the very tanky assassin role. But so for these first 2 roles, you'll be playing a lot safer, focusing on farm. And that is why, as we get into the starter items here, why the first thing I have is Eye of the Jungle. Is one of the starters that you want to consider. These are the 4 starters I do believe you should be considering on those burst assassins. Eye of the Jungle is one that's very good for farming up early. And this guide entirely is going to go for both the current Joust map and the new old Joust map that's coming out in the next patch and replacing all things Joust. Because assassins are still going to have like the same playstyle, same builds, in my opinion. We will see what happens, and if that changes, I will definitely make some updates for you guys. But as of now, I do think it's going to be pretty much the same build path. But Eye of the Jungle is one of my personal favorites to snowball, get a lot of jungle farm, and really get ahead as this burst assassin. If you've watched any of my past assassin videos and see me playing these bursty assassins, typically you see me go for Eye of the Jungle, tier 1 boots, 1 health potion, and just try and farm up to a full power boots before the red buff spawns. And it works out pretty much 100% of the time. And I have those nice full boots going to that red buff fight, and it has helped swing a lot of games and get that early snowball rolling. Though, you don't need Eye of the Jungle to do that. You can go Bluestone Pendant as your starter. If you want to just have early pressure against gods, clear the wave better. You could use this well on all the burst assassins, basically. Just give you a nice little extra oomph to your abilities. And then you can evolve that into Bluestone Brooch later on. Eye of the Jungle, you're typically evolving into Protector of the Jungle. But Seer of the Jungle does have niche uses if you really care about getting vision around fire and you think that your comp has just a lot of pressure without needing that extra passive and power buff from the Protector of the Jungle. The third starter to consider would be Warrior's Axe. This one you're going to be building a little bit less often, since you're more focused on going burst with these assassins, with the burst assassin class. Of course, you're going more burst, and Warrior's Axe, when it evolves into Sundering Axe, is going to deal percent. Is going to take away percent of the enemy's health, depending on how much protections you have built. So this one's a little bit more of a niche case if you're going to burst assassin. But it can be very good to deal that true damage, steal away that HP and mana. Even before it's Sundering Axe, it's still really good just as Warrior's Axe. Can give you that little poke that you want. And it's just your call which one you go. Like, I prefer Eye of the Jungle, and I'll buy Eye of the Jungle every single game. But you can go any of these four. War Flag, of course, is for more of a, if you're going double War Flag, maybe you're going double Assassin, maybe you're going Assassin Warrior, maybe your Guardian player is playing Ymir and he benefits a lot from the War Flag passive, and you just want to snowball really hard, you can go double War Flag and make those War Flags really effective. You probably turn one of them into a Spartan Flag, and then you could turn the other one into a War Banner or another Spartan Flag. I do think Spartan Flag has kind of an edge on War Banner. But yeah, as for core items, I've got two different types of boots, and I've got Void Shield and Stone Cutting. As usual, the core items are items that you typically want to pick up every single game. On a Burst Assassin, Void Shield is going to be a massive source of damage for you, in addition to giving you just a little bit of beefiness, which is oh so important for the Joust game mode. Because there are 3 opponents, and it's a constant team fight when you're fighting, usually. And you're going to need a little bit of beefiness, and Void Shield not only gives you that little bit of beefiness, but it reduces their protections, their physical protections, by 15%, which is massive, dude. 15% pen on a defense item? That's great. And then Stone Cutting is just the most cost-effective damage and also a little bit of tankiness item that I really like on these Burst Assassins. So I typically pick up these 2 items every single game, not necessarily like right after my boots, but somewhere in the build I like picking these up. And on all the Burst Assassins, you don't have to build both of these, you don't even have to build one of them, but they are the most typical items to include in your core itemization for Burst Assassins. I just put them up here because Burst Assassins are just so versatile in the items that you can buy that I just had to think of the most common ones that you would pick up. And then as for the boots argument, you kind of get to make a judgment call over here on the Warrior Tabby or Ninja Tabby. Usually I think you should be picking up the Warrior Tabby, but if you are getting a lot of auto attacks off and you just want to go something like this and really maximize your auto attack damage, but know you're still going into a bursty build later on, like just that little bit of extra attack speed can go a long way with the Ninja Tabby. So you can do that if you really feel like you need to melt down targets and your abilities aren't going to be enough. And moving on to the damage items. Some really strong picks for these bursty assassins are going to be Brawler's Beatstick for 1. Really great raw stats. Amazing against healing, of course. That's the main reason you're buying it. Erendite just gives you that extra chase potential. And can be very nice for gods like Pele, gods like Susano, where the second you cast your ult, you have an Erendite proc. It'll be a little bit, you know, worse on a god like Bastet or Camazotz who don't get the proc until their ults end. But it'd still be alright on them. However, the ones that really shine, or Erendite really shines on, are stuff like Susano, Thanatos, Thor, Relics, you know, the ones that get it the second they ult. And then Heartseeker, of course, always going to be super notable for anyone going burst. It's just the Soul Reaver of the physical class. So if you're playing against gods that have a good amount of health, Heartseeker is just going to be really good to tear that health out. It's going to be kind of like the chin size, but since you're typically going a little bit more burst focused, Heartseeker replaces that. And then on Keeley, although it has gotten a bit of a nerf in terms of the price and the power, item is still really good if you want to maintain maximum aggression, specifically on these burst-oriented characters. It allows you to play a lot more aggressive with less fear of retaliation from the enemy because of that nice 1-second silence in addition to the 30 prod is, you know, it is there. It does something. It's not going to be like the most impactful thing ever, but you are going to notice it. The 1-second silence is mainly what you're looking for, so you're playing against like Cerberus or something. You pick up an Onkile, and you're playing set, you 2-3 into their backline, and they try to stop you with the Cerberus breath, but then it just instantly cancels, and you just have like free reign for just a little bit of extra time, which can make all the difference on these characters, on these burst characters that are able to kill people so fast. Taking the enemy's ability to use abilities away from them for even 1 second can go a long way. And then on to the defensive items. We've got the Sledge, Glad Shield, Talisman of Energy, and Cad Shield. You'll notice that most of these items are more hybrid oriented, and that is because on these Burst Assassins you are focused on getting some power along with your defense. So, you know, you typically don't want to buy like a really hard defense item that's just full defense. Like Talisman of Energy is kind of the only exception I really make to that rule, just because it allows you to be a lot more aggressive when the minions die. Because you get that MP5, which assassins typically lack on, and you get the movement speed and attack speed, which are just really nice stats, not only for yourself, but for your team. And it's Talisman of Energy is a perfect item in Joust for that. And the Sledge is going to give you CCR if you feel like you need a lot of CCR, like you don't have enough beads to survive. You can pick up a Sledge. You can get that right after boots if you want, something like this. It'd be really nice. The extra health is amazing, 250. A really nice increase to the health bar. Glad Shield accomplishes kind of the same goal. You buy this item mainly for the raw stats, not for the little passive there, so it can be a nice little aggression item. You could build these items together like that if you wanted to. There are a lot of different orientations you can take with this build, but typically it's going to be starter, boots, and then you choose whatever the heck you want. Talisman of Energy, already ran over. It's going to be typically later in your build. You just felt like you need a little bit of magic prot. You did something like this, and you just want to slip on some defense, but also maintain your aggression. And then Cad Shield's on here because there are some characters in this burst class that have a lot of healing, like this. You got Pele, you got Set, you got Camazotz. These gods can heal up a lot if they're not buying a lot of anti-heal, so you could just sneak in a sneaky Cad Shield, and you could gain a lot of sustain from that. And it does have the hybrid protections on both sides, as well as a little bit of health, so it's got a little bit of everything in there. And then moving on, we got the niche items. Because this class is so versatile, there are going to be a lot of niche items. So the first one I got is Serrated Edge. This is kind of like a different take on stone cutting. It's 300 gold more expensive, and it gives percent pen over the flat pen. So if you're against a lot of tanky targets, this Serrated Edge can come in really, really clutch. It could replace your Titan's Bane and give you a lot of really, really nice stats, giving you some power, giving you some lifesteal, giving you some movement speed. I just prefer this over Titan's Bane almost every time, as long as your god is hitting the enemies with some abilities down. Like, you know, your Camazotz, you use your 2-1, and then you go up and you just start whacking them, right? Serrated Edge can be really nice for him, if the stone cutting isn't enough. Typically, I choose from either one of these. So that's why Serrated Edge is more of a niche item, because stone cutting is typically what you're picking up, since it's a lot cheaper and just becomes effective really fast and just instantly online. Feels really good to have. Another niche item is Transcendence. I like picking this up kind of at the end of my builds. It gives you a really massive burst of power. You can go, like, you reach your 5th and 6th item slots, and you just grab Transcendence straight into Heartseeker. It gives you the power that you want to make Heartseeker even more effective, and then your just burst becomes so potent. And this is going to get even better with the coming patch 8.7, because Transcendence is getting a price reduction from 2,600 to 2,450. 150 gold off. Transcendence could become very popular. Another one is Titan's Bane. If you're not getting many auto attacks off with your Serrated Edge, you could think of Titan's Bane, or, you know, the enemies are just really, really, really tanky. You can get 40% pen on your first ability cast, So if you have like a nuke ability coming in, like a Thanatos, you got a Thor, you got a Susanoo ult, and you just really want that to tear apart some tanks, Titan's Bane can be really nice. Typically, this is the item you're buying over Serrated Edge if you need heavy percent pen. Another niche item is Bloodforge. This is a super snowball item. You're not going to buy this a lot unless you are really, really far ahead. Because you're not going to get a lot of value from it unless you're getting kills, right? And it costs 2,800 gold, which is one of the most expensive items in the game. So be very careful when you buy this. Could be really nice, though, to get the snowball going as Thanatos. Like, you find yourself up 5-0, 8 minutes into the game. You could slap a Bloodforge on there and just keep the snowball getting bigger and bigger. Next niche item was the Chinshai here. This item is pretty niche, especially for a Burst Assassin. This is obviously going to be an item in the Auto Attack Assassin portion of the guide later on. But if you really need to melt down those high HP targets, you think that Heartseeker's not going to cut it, you can slap a Chin Size under the Burst Assassin. You'll attack a little bit faster, you'll hit a little bit faster, you'll tear out their health a little bit faster. It could be really nice, really nice. You could slap it on even like a Camazotz or an Relics. Let's say you went the attack speed boots route, but you still want to go more of a burst route. You just want to be able to melt the tanks a little bit faster. Chin Size can be nice. And then if you decided to go more of a like full damage route with the Burst Assassin, you could slap a single Mantle of Discord or a single Magi's Cloak under your build and just have everything else be like full power. Mantle and Magi's can be nice niche items to slide in there. And then for some other niche items that are basically full damage, Hydra's Lament can be very nice on some of these characters. Relics in particular, who gets a really massive power stim when she's the first one to engage a fight. With that nice little passive power increase, Hydra's Lament can make all your auto attacks and all your auto attacks just hit a lot harder when you're first engaging, and you can get a lot of value from having a Hydra's on her. And there are a few others, like Susanoo uses it well, Thanatos uses it well, Hoonbots uses it really well for different reasons, and it can help you a little bit with the mana sustain. So that's a nice little one to consider. You can build that late game or early game. Then we have the Mace Tree, which is an interesting one. These are items like if you're going for more of a full burst build, you don't want to follow this build path I've laid out with more hybrid items here, and you just want raw damage, consider going into the Jotuns or the Crusher. Very nice items to get a nice little snowball going if you feel like you don't need any tankiness, or you just want heavy CDR, or you want a little bit of better jungle clear, / getting those auto attacks out faster in a fight. And then the only other I have, other than that, for niche items is Soul Eater. This is kind of like a exclusively Pele item. For the Burst Assassin class, it can help you sustain a lot. And you can get that early or late. It's got a lot of really good stats on it, Soul Eater does, but it just doesn't feel that good to build on most Assassins. Pele's kind of the only one that really used it well, since she kind of gets like the double effect from her passive, plus the Soul Eater. But yeah, that about does it for the Burst Assassin. We will now be moving on to the second type of assassin, the Auto Attack Assassin. Once again, the main gods that are going to be going this type of build path are going to be Arachne, Bakasura, Kali, and Nemesis. So it's kind of a limited class in terms of the number of characters that are going to really utilize this Auto Attack build well. But it can be very deadly if played into the right characters. Specifically, we're thinking about things that have a lot of HP that you need to melt down. It's going to take a while to kill them. So like Kulu could be very nice to go Auto Attack Assassin into. He's the main one that you need to think about when, if someone's early picking Kulu, you're probably wanting to go an Auto Attack Assassin or a Hunter, so that you can melt them down. Arthur's another one that you could do that against, though you're not going to find a lot of King Arthur players in Joust. And these basic attack assassins here that we're about to talk about are extremely good at punishing. So if the enemy is picking just a lot of tankiness, like they're revolving around, I don't know, an Achilles Execute or something, and they're just building like full tank, if you get one of these auto attack assassins to the late game, you will shred everybody. And they will be so sad because you will kill them really fast. And this is the perfect type of character to do that. And these characters are going to play very conservative in the early game and really come on late game. So we're going to go for a similar style with them, build-wise. Eye of the Jungle for the same reasons as the Burst Assassin. Just focus on farm because you're not doing a lot until late game. So that's what the Eye of the Jungle is for. You're going to turn that into Protector of the Jungle when you get to that later stage if you hit level 20. Though chances are you don't hit that. Another one is War Flag. Can keep you nicely sustained. Get that attack speed. Get you some movement speed for the team as well. You can evolve that into a Spartan Flag or a War Banner. Probably Spartan Flag. And usually you're only getting War Flag if you're going 2 of them. Though it can be good. It's just 1. It's just the interaction of War Flag stacking is very nice when you have 2 people that have it. Like 1 minion dies and you get 2 War Flag stacks for it and double the sustain. The third starter to consider is Benevolence. If you're playing for like a full late game build and you want to get Animosity. Animosity will basically just be a second chin size in these builds. And so it's just like a really nice increase to your damage, but it doesn't, you're not going to feel the effect of it until you get Animosity. So you got to be a little bit careful when you build this one. You have to know you're playing for the late game. You're not going to have very great clear. Sustain's not going to be amazing, but you are going to be able to hunker down in your little bunker under your tower and, you know, really bide your time while your gold's ticking up, your XP's ticking up from Benevolence, and getting that Animosity online. And this will be probably the strongest late game option you can go. It's just your early suffers a lot from it. And then the only other one to consider is Mannequin Scepter. Kind of accomplishes the same thing as Eye of the Jungle. Allows you to farm a lot easier. This will allow you to kill bull demons really fast. So if you have a really high pressure comp going and you slap a Mannequin Scepter on, you can offer a lot to clearing that first Bull Demon King and really bring the fight to the enemies. Though it is kind of counterintuitive since, as we talked about, you are trying to get to the late game with these auto attack assassins and really let her rip in those late fights and kill people really fast, because you'll be able to kill any of their team very quickly with these characters. And then moving on to the core items, typically it's an auto attack assassin, so you are going Ninja Tabby most times, but you don't have to. You can still go Eye of the Jungle, Power Boots, and a Stone Cutting, and have a lot of burst in this build, and then be going into more of an auto attack oriented build later on. The Ninja Tabby is typically one you want to go. And then Chin Size I also have under the core items here, because you are going to be buying Chin Size every single game if you're going an auto attack assassin. No ifs, ands, or buts around it, you are buying Chin Size, because this thing is going to be the highest value DPS item that you can possibly buy on an auto attacker going into that late game. But obviously you're not going to buy it like extremely early on. You're probably going to do something more like this, right? Or something like this. I actually prefer the Power Boots, to be honest with you, but Ninja Tabby is just a little bit nicer in the late stages of the game. And then you can throw a Chin Size on probably in this 5th or 6th slot. But yeah, you will be buying this every game with these types of characters. Moving on to damage, we've got Serrated Edge, which, as we talked about earlier with the Burst Assassins, is kind of just like interchangeable with the Stone Cutting, though you're not going to build them at the same point. Like if you decide you don't want Stone Cutting for whatever reason, you can get Serrated Edge later on in the build to get you that nice penetration. We've got Dominance on here, which is another item you'll be building later in the build if you decide to go it. You can trade it out for boots, get that late. But it'll add... Oh my lordy! Thank you for the host. Pose, I hope your stream went well. You've arrived just in time to talk about how to build assassins. We're talking about auto attack assassins right now. How you guys doing from Pose's stream? Sup, Luke? But yeah, Dominance is just going to be extremely good when you're hitting those auto attacks on. Gives you that 20% pen. It'll be like a Titan's Bane kind of, but on your auto attacks. And then Executioner, of course, is a signature auto attack item. Build it along with Chin Size, have a lot of synergy. And that's going to be like a 4th, 3rd type of item that you get on these auto attackers to really spike your damage count against the tanks. And then we have Hasten Katana, which of course is going to be extremely notable on any auto attack assassin, more so on Arachne and Baka and Kali than Nemesis, just because Nemesis can stick a little bit easier with all her movement speed and slows to her opponents. So Hasten Katana is going to be more of a Arachne Baka thing. Like if I was playing Baka, I'd probably build something like this. Get the Hasten Katana in that slot right after the stone cutting. It'll be really effective. And the reason why you're able to get away with like no prot on these characters is because you're picking your fights very carefully. You're not like a tanky warrior who's just always trying to be in the fight and chucking stuff. You've got Sov Talisman.
Disappear into the cosmos.
Around, right? Thanks for the follow, Big Mike. How would I build Loki? We'll be talking about that in just a moment here. So hold your horses. We'll be there in just a moment. But yeah, the Hasten Katana just allows you to keep that chase up. Once again, not as necessary on Nemesis, but to chase down on Arachne, Baka, and Kali, very nice to have this item. And then defensive items, I've got Void Shield on here. It's kind of, you know, remember that build I was talking about earlier where you could go Ninja Tabby, Stone Cutting, like Void Shield? You can kind of do the same thing with these auto attackers. And you could do this on a burst or an attack speed warrior, or assassin, my bad. But the difference is, after you do this, you're probably buying this on the auto attacker. Because, as we did mention, you do want to have chin size somewhere in here. And then another defensive item you could buy is Mantle of Discord. Once again, it's kind of the same reasons as you would buy it on the Burst Assassin. Like, you just want, like, full damage, and then you just wanted one defense item. Mantle or Magi's will accomplish that goal extremely well. And the only thing we have to talk about are niche items. Erendite is going to be a notable one. This is going to be extremely strong on Nemesis, on Arachne, and on Baka, because it procs right as they ult. Well, not on Arachne. Arachne, you get the proc when you land, but it's about the same. You're moving really fast, so you don't really need the Erendite proc while in Arachne ult. But on Kali, you're probably not building this, because it's not going to proc until your ult finishes channeling. So, you know, the whole Erendite value thing is going to fall out of favor with her. That's why this is more of a niche one than a mainstay on these characters. And then another one is Bloodforge. Same reasons as you would build them on any character. You just feel like you're getting a lot of kills. You're snowballing. And the shield could give you a really big value. Just basically applies a shell to you every time you kill someone. And then some other notable options are Odysseus Bow and Silver Branch. Like these three bows. Anything that's not Atalanta's, because Atalanta's is some buns. But you just feel like you need a little bit extra attack speed. You really want to hit that 2.5 cap. You want to reduce their attack speed maybe. You want to be able to hit multiple people without actually hitting multiple people. Like, Oboe just gives a lot of damage. Like, if you have a lot of power just built in already, like here, and you don't feel like you need a mantle, you could slap an Oboe here in this slot, and it would just spike your damage exponentially. It'd be really nice for you. And then, of course, Silver Branches, when you're overcapping, you typically are going to buy this like in place of Boots if you really think that you're going to be able to get that value from that overcapped attack speed. And that's extra nice on a god like Arachne or Baka that's going to overcap very easily because of their stim/passive. Then some other notes are Toxic Blade if you need to counter some healing, though typically you don't need to worry about the healing as much because you're just going to burst them so fast with these auto attack builds that the healing just doesn't really come into effect, because even if they're healing for 500, they're still taking 500 damage within the next 0.7 seconds, so the healing doesn't really mean much. So you just kind of have to make a judgment call on the Toxic Blade there. And then the only other options I got on the niche section are Shogun's Kasari, if you feel like you need a little bit more of a defensive option, but you still want to get some attack speed. Shogun's is nice. And then Crusher as well is a nice early game item. You're typically not going to build this later on in the build, but Crusher can be nice if you just want a little bit of extra attack speed. Let's say you went something like this, and then you're like, I'd really like some attack speed, and I really just want some more early game pressure. I'm snowballing a bit, maybe. Let's slap a Crusher on there. Don't feel like I need defense, and that can be good. And then, did we talk about Relics? I feel like we might not have talked about Relics. Yeah, we definitely didn't talk about relics. We'll talk about relics and consumables at the end, because they're kind of the same for every class, or for every type of assassin. But now, just for you, Big Mike, we'll be moving on to the last type of assassin. The tank/tanky assassin. That's going to be built more like a warrior, which is how you would build Loki. And so let's take a look at those type of builds here. We got Fenrir as kind of the poster child for this type of build. He's more of a full tank assassin, and we'll be talking about like the full tank assassin build that you're going to be doing on assassins like Fenrir and Naja, and we'll also be talking about the more hybrid assassin that you'll be doing on the others. So the list of gods in the tank/tanky assassin category will mainly consist of Fenrir, Loki, Mercury, Naja, Ratatoskr, Serket, and Tsukuyomi. These are all characters that have enough base damage to get away with extremely tanky builds, and they can just be really annoying with these high hybrid items / full tank item builds. And so the starter items on these characters, you can choose from any of these three. These are typically the ones you want to go. Most of the time it's going to be Benevolence, and you can turn that into Animosity later. But, you know, if you're playing something like a Loki, Animosity probably isn't the best thing to buy. Tsukuyomi, it can be good, but I'd rather have Sundering Axe, so you kind of just have to make a judgment call here. Like, the full tank assassins like Fenrir and Naja, you're typically going to go the Animosity / Compassion build every time. Both are very good on the character, so whichever style you want to go for, whatever build path you decide to opt into, you will change up whether you go Compassion or Animosity. Warrior's Axe, as I just mentioned, you're going to be building this more on the Tsukuyomis and the Lokis of the world, so you can get that extra little poke damage. Those gods are really good at applying the Sundering Axe. And then War Flag, a nice little mention that I've had in all these assassin categories. Can be nice if you're just going for more of a snowball, high sustain. You get a talisman along with a War Flag. You have 2 War Flags, and you're just able to snowball really nicely. And it's a feel-good item. It really is. But it is arguably a slight amount weaker than the others. And then I have Chalice of Healing on here. And Chalice of Healing is just an item that you're always going to buy. Sustain is just too good. But moving on to the core items, I have a tier 1 boot. Well, tier 1 boots here, because you can kind of choose from any of these boots. All 3 of them are good. Well, yeah, I kind of just consider Teleria not even a part of the boots class these days. It's just so unnecessary. Power boots, of course, are for the assassins like Tsukuyomi and the assassins like Loki, where that little bit of extra power can go a long way. You don't really need them that bad on, say, Fenrir. You don't need them that bad on, say, Mercury, because on those characters you have enough base damage so that you can just go tank boots, full tankiness. But Tsukuyomi and Loki, those are characters that really make use of the power boots, because they have a lot of power scaling. So that extra power goes a long way. Then, of course, if you're going more of an Animosity build, you can consider Ninja Tabby, though a lot of the time you'll just go Reinforced Shoes anyway. These are going to be the ones you pick up on most of these characters if you're going for more of a tanky route, and they're just the safest boots to pick up. These other boots are kind of just, they're there if you think you can get away with them. These are the main ones, and these are the ones that you'll buy if you think that your character needs it, or your character really wants it, and you can survive with them. You're not getting bursted really hard. And then the other core items are Saw, Talisman, and Pridwin. And this is more for the Fenrir and Naja part of the class. These are like full tank items. And it's just like the warrior build, where you go something like this. It's just amazing on the Fenrir and Naja. It gives you all the tankiness you need, in addition to the cooldown that you need, and the survivability and team auras it's just perfect synergy from these 3 items. So that's what you're going on Fenrir and Naja. But the other tanky assassins are going to be slightly different. They're going to be relying a little bit more on the hybrid items. If you're playing Tsukuyomi or Loki, and you're going this Warrior's Axe route, you can typically start off with a T1 Glad Shield here, and then get your boots, typically power boots, and then go more of a hybrid build here, kind of like this. This is a really good Loki build, by the way, if you're looking for one. Power boots is what this would have been. Good on Loki and Tsukuyomi. But yeah, moving on to the damage items. We've got Erendite. Assassins are just really, really good with this item. You may have noticed that they've been in... Erendite has been a niche item or a damage item in every single one of these assassin styles. And it's just a really good item on any assassin. It gives 75 power. That's a lot of power and some CDR. Could be really nice just to slap on anywhere in the build, really. You could go something like this. Just buy both Arthurian items. This is my go-to Fenrir build most of the time. I really like that. Because he just uses these items extremely well. The second you pop that Fenrir roll, you just get a Pridwin shield and an Erendite proc. So not only do you have survivability from the Pridwin, but you're running towards your targets sooner or quicker to bite them. And when you actually bite them, you're carrying them away towards your team faster too. Because they're still in your mouth, so you're still running towards them technically. And you just drag them really fast towards your team. Makes it very nice for your team to follow up. Then Serrated Edge, for the same reasons it's been on here all the other times. It's just kind of the alternative to stone cutting. Can give you some nice percent pen if you need that. And then it's really nice, especially on Fenrir, where he already has built-in lifesteal. So it just gives him a little bit of extra lifesteal. Chin size. It's kind of like if you're going the animosity build and you want some extra damage, you can build chin size, and it's basically like you have 2 animosities. And you attack a little bit faster. So it's really nice. And you don't need a lot of pen to make this work. Heck, you don't need any pen to make this work. Your animosity chin size will still add at least 100 damage to every single auto attack on a tank with no pen at all. Then Toxic Blade is another damage item to consider. You could build something like this with an animosity build. And you'll have anti-heal if you're playing against, you know, an Aphrodite or something. This build will typically take a little bit longer to kill people with because although you're going auto attack, you have a lot of tankiness. So you're not like a nemesis one-shotting people. Well, it's not obviously a one-shot, but like killing people in like 5 autos through their healing. So that can be a nice little combo to consider. Then as for the defensive items, we've got the classic Gauntlet of Thebes. If you're looking for like a 1 defensive item to buy and then just full damage, Gauntlet of Thebes can be good. Just throw a Gauntlet of Thebes in there. Or you just buy Gauntlet of Thebes and then just a bunch of hybrid items. Gauntlet of Thebes, of course, is the most efficient gold to protection item in the game once it's stacked up. It's only 2350 gold and you get 60 of each protection in addition to a nice little sum of 300 health and 15 HP 5. So it's just the most effective tankiness for a usage of your gold. But of course you have to pay with the time it takes to stack it up. And you can buy this early on or late in the build. Then Glad Shield is a nice combo with Gauntlet of Thebes, though you don't need Gauntlet of Thebes to make it good. Once again, you only buy Glad Shield, or you mainly buy Glad Shield for the raw stats. It just has a little bit of everything in there. And then the passive is just a bonus. So especially if you're going like a Warrior's Axe build, Warrior's Axe and Glad Shield go along really well together because they both kind of operate in a similar fashion. And so going to Gauntlet of Thebes and the Glad Shield can be really nice. Or even just rushing a Glad Shield if you're more of a aggressive style assassin like the Loki or the Tsukuyomi, and you didn't feel like you wanted to play that more supporty role, though you could always switch it up. You can go Glad Shield into Thebes. You don't have to go Thebes into Glad Shield. And then of course, Void Shield is always going to be an extremely important hybrid item to get right after boots, to get it later in the build. Just always a good item to pick up. It's a little bit more on the pricey side, 2,600, but reducing the physical protections of your enemies is going to buff your damage in addition to having that tankiness from the Void Shield. It's just a really, really good item. And then another one to consider is Genji's Guard, as it just buffs your cooldowns. It's got 10% CDR in addition to that MP5 that those assassins lack a lot of the time. A really high amount of magical protection, the 70, and just a little bit of extra health. And another thing is, it only costs 2,200. So it just helps out with your cooldowns a lot. So if you're worried about your cooldowns, you're worried about your mana, it can be really nice on gods like Loki and Tsukuyomi, Or even the other ones, like Fenrir, if you just want to have those cooldowns up just a little bit more often. And then the niche items for these gods are going to include stuff like Witchblade. It's kind of like, I'm not buying Ichaival on these tank gods, so let's pick up Witchblade so we can slow them down a bit. Witchblade is leagues better than its counterpart, Midgardian Mail. Midgardian Mail costs 2,300, that's 250 extra, and you only get a little bit of extra health. Let's look at that real quick. You get 50 extra health, a little bit of extra physical protection, 10 extra, but you're mainly just getting a slow for 250 gold, because this is going to give you movement speed, it's going to give you CDR, only 50 less health and 10 less Fizz Prot. Like, there's just no reason to buy Midgardian, man. Just always Witchblade. And then the other niche items, Stone Cutting. If you can apply the Stone Cutting really easily, it's the interchangeable for Serrated Edge, so if you feel like you're getting their carries a lot, Stone Cutting can be really nice to help you burst those guys down. Oni Hunter's Garb is a nice little note. You could get it instead of Talisman mainly is when you're going Oni Hunters, and that's only if they have a lot of really heavy magical bursts that you're worried about. Like if they're Athena taunting you into a full Tiamat combo every single time, and you need some CCR / some more survivability to get away from that. And then some other notable options. Mantle of Discord. Just slap that on at the end of your build, and you know, if you're not the best at the tanky class, especially on these assassins that are typically more geared around being built damage, and you know, you just want a little bit of extra safety, you can slap a Mantle of Discord on there. Though typically you can play without this item. I don't buy this item at all actually anymore, but it's a nice little, I consider it a bit of a crutch item if you have a little bit of trouble with the living thing. Then another one is Spectral Armor is a nice niche item to consider, because crit is a very popular stat on the hunters these days, and even on gods that have built-in crit. You got Oleron, you got Naja. Like, if you just really, really hate crit, and they're building a lot of it, Spectral Armor is something you want to buy. And then lastly, there is the Winged Blade. If you're against a lot of really annoying slows, Raijin is a really popular god to pick up Winged Blade against, because he throws his Raiju on you and then you just zoom away. But Winged Blade's one to consider against those heavy slows. So I think that actually about does it for the building of these characters. The only things we really have to talk about now are the relics and the consumables, and then maybe we go through some example builds. But yeah, as for relics, it's pretty much going to be the same across all three types of assassins. I'll even throw the extra relic in here that's going to go on for the burst and auto attack ones. For the tanky ones, it's just going to be these four that you're picking from mainly, along with possibly a shell. And then on the burst and auto attack assassins, it's going to be this, Sundering Spear sometimes, and Aegis. But typically, you're going to have beads every game. Doesn't really matter which type of assassin you are. And the reasons you're going to buy these relics are going to be the same for the reasons you buy them on any other class, really. Beads is going to not only be an extremely good defensive option, but it's going to be a very effective aggressive option. You can make aggressive or defensive plays with the beads. And having a well-timed beads against CC and Smite is just pretty much makes it the strongest relic in the entire game, in my opinion. And then Blink on an assassin is a very, very notable relic to buy. Allows you to get in there without having to use your escape. Allows you to get in there without using the escape that you don't have on some of these assassins. You just instantly blink auto in as a Camazotz, and you just appear right at their mage's feet. It can be very good for you because you still have your jump, you still have your ult. You didn't have to use any of those tools to close the gap, because gap closing is going to be very important for these melee characters. Blink is always going to be an extremely strong buy, more often used aggressively, but sometimes defensively. Sundering Spear, if you need to burst down some tanks, it's still even good for killing carries, but it's mainly going to be for tanks. Like, if you're against a lot of carries and you're getting to their carries really easily, you're probably going Blink Beads. You're not needing Sunder. But if you really find yourself in a position where you want to burst the tanks, or you're having a really hard time getting to their carries, so you're like, alright, I give up, I'm killing the tanks, Sundering Spear is what you want. And then Frenzy does kind of the same thing, though it's more of a team-oriented buff, so you're going to buy this on the Tanky Assassins, the Najas and the Fenrers of the Assassin class, because you're not probably buying this on a carry. And you could go like Frenzy and Sunder if you're really worried about the burst potential coming out from your carries. Could kill can kill a tank very quickly with this. Aegis Amulet. That's typically for the burst assassins and the auto attack assassins. Let's say they don't have a lot of hard CC. You can just go Blink and Aegis. Or if they do have a lot of hard CC, but you think they're coming to you and you don't need to go to them by using a Blink, you could get Beads and Aegis. Though, once again, this is going to be more of a for the burst assassin class. And then Shell is the final buy. Shell got a little bit gutted with the block stack loss. Still kind of a rough one that people don't buy very often, but it still has the potential to swing a fight in your favor where it's or save a teammate at a crucial point. So it's still a very notable relic to consider in your builds. Though typically you're not going it in. It's just these 5 that you're picking from. And of course, they're always niche relics. With, like, if they have a lot of healing, you can consider going in Ankh. Sprint can be good sometimes, though typically not. Like, these are all, like, preference relics down here. Like, against Odin, against a Bracken Phantom can be effective. But, yeah. Mostly, it's going to be these 5 that you're picking from. And then, other than that, we've only got consumables to talk about. And it's going to be the same spiel that I go through in every one of these class videos. About when, where, how to buy these things. Chalice of Healing is something you always want to buy. Every single game as an assassin. I don't think there's a single assassin where you wouldn't want to buy this. In the Joust game mode specifically, just because it's a constant 3 versus 3, right? Just taking a lot of poke, trading a lot of abilities. The Chalice of Healing just comes in really clutch. If, you know, this guy just keeps Uller 3ing me, man. Like, it's like he doesn't even hit you with it if you got this. So you pick up Chalice of Healing whenever it's convenient. You can buy it at the start of the game. You can buy it after you finish your boots. You can buy it before you finish your boots. You can buy it 3 items down the road. Like, it's always good. Wards. Sentry and normal. You buy when you're pressuring the Bull Demon King. Well, just the Demon King now is what he's called. Though you won't be doing that on the next Joust map. But these wards will still be nice on the new old Joust map coming out in 8.7. You'll be able to ward typically around those red buffs, entrance to lane type of deal. Though on the current map, of course, you want to cover the 3 points of entry into the Bull Demon King, if possible, and then have a sentry on the Demon King. That's the ideal warding situation for wards. And yeah, you typically only buy those when you're pressuring the Demon King, though I do like to buy them just at random points just to have a nice little ward in my inventory in case someone jumps over a wall and I want to know where they go. You know, because people will double back, they'll turn right, they'll turn left, they'll keep going straight. That ward can be really nice in those types of niche situations and way more value than, say, like a multi-pot. And then the only thing left to talk about are potions of power, all 3 of these types, all the potions, and the elixir of speed. So I find the 500 pot extremely nice to buy, and in a few types of situations. The first is you're on death's door, your Titan is 100 health, and you just spawned, or well, I guess it would have to be more than 100, but it's like 3k health. You need to get out of the base, you just spawned, and you just need like anything, literally anything. You only have 622 gold and you can't finish your item. Just buy a power pot as a last-ditch effort to save the game. You can buy a power pot once you've kind of finished your build, right? And let's say you have 30% CDR, even if you have 40% CDR. I personally prefer to buy it when I have lower than 40% CDR. At the end of my build, you can buy a power pot, increase your CDR to that cap, or get closer to that cap. It can be very nice for you. CDR is not bad on any god. And then 3k pots. Almost forgot to talk about those. It's really tricky. 3k pots kind of go hand in hand with 1500 pots. You're probably not going to be able to get speed pot bought, boots sold, new item bought, and 3k pot in 99% of games, just because the game doesn't go for 40 minutes. That's about the point where that starts happening. So you kind of have to make a choice most games. Do you want 3k pot or do you want 1500? So what I do a lot of the time is I'll have 40% CDR in my build, and then I won't buy a 500 pot, and I'll just save up for a 3K. And if I get to a point where I feel like I need a different item other than boots, I will buy the speed pot and then buy my item. Like, let's say I'm playing these tanky assassins and I'm just not able to kill them. I just need a little bit more damage. I might just sell off my boots, get a speed pot, and pick up a Heart Seeker. You know, just a nice little extra burst potential to your item, pool that's going to be stronger than boots. But if you don't feel like you need to sell those boots, just save up for a 3K. It'll end up being more effective. Like, the 1500 pot is only for when you feel like you really need a different item. Because it's a pretty heavy investment. You pay 1500. Well, I guess it's only like you pay 500 because you're selling the boots. But, yeah, you lose 500 gold to get that item. And it just takes a while for that process to fully complete, buying the speed pot, getting enough money to sell the boots for your other item, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, you just have to make a judgment call over 3K pot or 1500. But, yeah, that's gonna about do it for the Assassin class. If you guys have any questions, now is the time to speak up. Let me know if you have anything to say. It's a nice little AMA. Maybe we'll look at a couple of example games. I have a really good one right here, actually. Tsukuyomi. This is from a YouTube video from a few days ago. And I did a lot of damage, as you can see. I went the Warrior's Axe build. This was a boots. I felt like I needed a Heartseeker late. But how my thought process went throughout this game is I needed beads, Kumba, and Hou-Yi. And Scylla. I'm going to get comboed extremely hard if I don't have beads here. So I started with beads. And I went my boots and my Sunring Axe. I went tier 2 boots with my axe. Don't really need a lot of sustain. You can play pretty well around your Warrior's Axe procs and just not really need any potions for this start. So I went tier 2 boots with my axe. And then I got power boots because, of course, Tsukuyomi was one of the assassins I mentioned. It's really nice with those power boots. Makes a lot of use from the scaling. And then Gladiator Shield was the item I decided to buy and just went some nice hybrid. And then I went Genji's. So I'm getting cooldown, I'm getting a little bit of power, I'm getting protections at both sides, I'm getting health. I'm just getting all the stats that I really want. So I got good damage and good tankiness and a lot of cooldown. And then after that I went for Void Shield for a little bit more physical protection against this Hou-Yi. You know, his build was a little bit slow on the startup with the Devourers into the XC, but he ends up getting a lot of damage. So the Void Shield I thought was a great pickup. Get a little bit of extra oomph on my physical protection. And then, of course, as we went over, Void Shield gives you a lot of damage. So my build is progressing really well at this point. Then, of course, I want to cap out this cooldown as possible. Tsukuyomi is one of those characters that uses cooldown extremely well. So I slapped on a Pridwin, and then I picked up my Sunring Axe. And then I still had my boots at this point, and I was like, I just feel like I need a little extra something to take these guys out. So I ended up going for the speed pot route and getting my Heartseeker online so that I could shred mainly this Kumba just a little bit faster. Because with the Sunring Axe, I can focus exclusively on Kumba and only poke him. And we'll just win fights eventually just because we'll wear them out faster. Because I'm able to hit them from way further away. And it worked out perfectly this game. Perfectly schmerfically. Moving on to a full tank build we could look at. Oh, this one was a good one. This one was another YouTube video from a few days ago. I'm sure if you guys watched that, you had a good time. I went tier 1 boots this game with my Benevolence in addition to my Chalice of Healing and my Mana Potion because I felt like I would need a lot more sustain in that game, and I'm not really worried about trying to rush my boots and get them online before red because I really don't care about getting that on Fenrir, to be honest with you. I don't really care for the first red buff. You don't really need to care for any of the red buffs, to be honest with you. The red buff isn't like a massive swing or anything. Like, if you don't win the fight at red, you don't need to go for it. As long as you're getting your farm, you're doing just fine. So this is the full tank build. The core items, Saw of Talisman, and I went tank boots because I was the solo frontliner, so I needed tank boots. And then of course these are my core items, Talisman of Energy and Soft. And then I wanted my cooldown. My Pridwin is also core. on the full tank assassin. But after I hit this point, I was like, huh, my teammates really aren't doing as much damage as I want. They seem to be dying a bit more than killing, and I seem to be getting most of the kills. So I would really like to get a little bit of damage in this build. I was actually initially going to go Compassion here, and you'll even notice I went full, like, boosting the boys relics here. I went Sunder and Frenzy so we could melt these tanks. But it started to look like it wasn't really working out, and I felt like I needed to do a little bit more by myself. So I opted into a Serrated Edge so that not only could I kill the Discordia that I obviously was killing a lot, judging from his 10 deaths, but I could do some decent damage to these tanks who are going a lot of defensive items. They both went Thebes, in addition to even more physical protection and just more protection and health in general. So the Serrated Edge I felt would come in really clutch. And then of course as I was just talking about how I felt like I needed more damage, I adjusted my Compassion buy and ended up turning it into an Animosity so that I could just do a lot of damage. And if you watch this game, go back a few games in the Fenrir, my latest Fenrir video, you will see just how well this Animosity worked out. I was chonking the Gilgamesh and the Kukulkan. So yeah, the only build we really have left is the Auto Attacker build. That's... ooh, I don't have one here. Ooh, I don't have an Auto Attacker build, maybe. Oh, I've got Baka games. I've got plenty of Baka games. Any ranked ones in here? Or any longer games? 14, 11. I don't have any long ones. Unlucky. Well, let's get the longest one. Or the most items built. Let's see. But yeah, I think Baka is actually pretty good in Joust. Weird as it is to say. You just run around farming the whole time. And my core Baka build is usually just Eye of the Jungle, Power Boots, Stone Cutting, Hastened, and then you go into whatever you think you need to get. Typically I go Magi's, so that I can just go just a little bit longer uninterrupted, because I'll blink in, I'll drop my ult, and then I'll be CC immune for like 1.5 seconds, right? And then they proc my Magi's, and I get CC immune again! So I'm just chomping away, doing my Baka thing, and of course I would get a chin size later in this build somewhere. But yeah, I went tier 1 Stone Cutting along with the Eye of the Jungle. I think if I were to play Baka or any of the Auto Attack Assassins now, I would probably go Boots 1 with Eye of the Jungle and 1 health pot. Yeah. But I guess we did... we got everything, I think. Wait. We missed Burst Assassin. Burst Assassin. I think I got a Burst Assassin in the history, maybe. I think this is the closest I have to Burst Assassin. So Burst Assassin here, I ended up actually going more of an Auto Attack Assassin build, but it still sticks true with some of the Burst Assassin ideals. I was snowballing extremely hard this game. I was hitting every ability pretty much. It was pretty nice. I went the tier 1 boots with the Eye of the Jungle and the 1 health pot. Finished the boots before red. And then I wanted to get physical protection against double fizz here. Gilgamesh, Tsukuyomi. I opted into the Void Shield, and other ones to consider, of course, are Glad Shield or just rushing the Stone Cutting straight after. But I felt like I needed a little bit more protection, so I went for Void Shield here. And then, of course, the Pen. Ymir is going to be very naturally tanky, so having that extra pen on the Void Shield was really nice. And then I was playing really well around Ymir's cooldowns, so I was just kind of being like, my magical defense in this build is my beads. So that's what I went for. I just went for like full physical protection and just focused on killing the Ymir every fight, because he was really squishy. He wasn't building very tanky. So I just tried to kill him, and then I just had all this physical prot for winning the fight against the 2 fizz here. And then as you see, I was going into a little bit of talisman action. One of the few full defense items I think is still valuable on a Burst Assassin. And then, honestly, I was probably going to make this more of a bursty auto attack build and grab a chin size later, because although these are a lot of items you could build on an auto attack assassin, you'll notice that none of them have basic attack speed on them, except for this talisman that's about to come out. So I would have probably gone a chin size. Well, either general has attack speed. That doesn't count though! But I got a chin size after. And yeah, those are just some example builds for all of the classes. And that's going to wrap it up for me. We have a question from the chat from Mr. WelchM10. Thoughts over chins? I think chins is a really good item. You can build it on any of these types of assassins. Works well on the burst one, like there in that Camzots game I was going to go it later. Of course, it works well on the auto attack assassin. And then you can build it. Oh, when I built the Serrated. Oh, you're talking about this game. Okay. I prefer the Serrated here. I wanted the pen. I really did. That's the main reason. Like, chin size probably would have added about maybe 40 damage per auto with no pen. Should have been solid. But I wanted the other stats too. Like, the animosity was doing enough damage for me. So I decided to just get more of a pen build and be able to kill Demon King and have quite a bit of lifesteal actually from Serrated. This thing gives you what when all your abilities are on cooldown? 19% lifesteal in addition to the pen power, movement speed. Yeah, that was the main reason. The other item I was considering was actually stone cutting in this game. But I did opt for the Serrated. Chin size would definitely not have been bad. I probably could have just not gone Pridwin and gone chin size, because I was not getting a lot of pressure put on me this game. I guess I did take quite a bit of damage, actually. So, yeah, chin size would have been fine. But on Fenrir specifically, I do want to have a nice burst of cooldown. The main reason I didn't go chins in this particular game was because I was planning on going, like, a full tank. Just let Janus and Medusa play off my ult and kill them, because I have Sunder Frenzy, which is all the damage we need. And then I could have just gone, I was going for like a full tank cooldown build. I was going to turn this into Compassion actually originally, and then probably get like Relic Dagger or something. But I quickly realized, well, not so quickly, but I did realize that I needed to be a bit more of a carry-esque build. And that was right after I finished Pridwin, so I didn't want to sell it. Just had to make the judgment call, but both would have been good, for sure. Either or. And yeah, that about does it for the How to Build Assassins video. We covered the burst, auto attack, and tank, full tank / tanky assassins. Hope you guys did enjoy that one. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you did, and subscribe to the channel. And then, of course, if you want to check this out live, there's a link to my Twitch channel in the description of the video. But until next time, guys, thanks for watching once again, and